I am absolutely loving NFL draft talk right now because even though the Tennessee Titans hold the number one pick, it is presumed and believed that it's Cam Ward. So all the talk about the 2025 NFL draft right now starts at 2 and the Cleveland Browns. Browns 3D starts now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dogbound Browns 3D on the OBR. Brought to you by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate all of you. Of course, just coming out, reading the written content every day, coming out, checking out all the streaming content nightly here on the OBR. Make sure you're subscribed to the OBR on YouTube and, of course, the OBR over on Twitch as well. Again, we could not be more thankful for all the support we're getting here. We got about 3 weeks and change to go here, and the excitement doesn't stop. And, I know some of you are tired of it, but I'm going to say it again. Haven't been able to talk about first-round prospects, really even second-round prospects, for 3 years now. So I wholeheartedly am enjoying every minute of it. Now, Travis Hunter's obviously been the name du jour here lately, as far as connected to the Cleveland Browns. And look, in no way whatsoever am I trying to, bring down the name or the game of Travis Hunter. Fantastic player. My biggest fear, I think, is that I think people will never truly understand just how special this past fall was out in Boulder, Colorado, and all that Travis Hunter did. We've seen guys try to moonlight at 2 positions, Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey, but nobody just went out and owned it every day, every down, every rep, like Travis Hunter did. Now, first off, if Travis Hunter, and I've said this and I'll say it again, if Travis Hunter was 6'1", 200 pounds, there'd be nothing that would stop me from saying, first off, that he's the best player in this draft. And then second of all, that absolutely the Cleveland Browns should take him as a wide receiver at number 2 overall. You want to dabble at cornerback later on, that's more than fine. But I did bring up the point yesterday, and you kind of look at the way the Cincinnati Bengals did things, right? It was Joe Burrow, then drafted T. Higgins, then drafted Jamar Chase. You try to get the guy and then find who works with the guy. Granted, if they are that good, whoever the quarterback is shouldn't matter. Anybody that's going to bring that up as a point, counterpoint, solid counterpoint. Not going to disagree with you at all. But for me, and looking at the Browns as a whole here, and, I know some people are trying to say rebuild, whatever, and there's going to be a lot of changing and maneuvering on this roster for the Browns over the next, this I can't get right, between this offseason and next offseason. So this is why I'm kind of still firmly belief of Abdul Carter for the Browns. At 2, sure. Is there a slight possibility, again, that maybe New England has the ultra hots for Travis Hunter, and they vision Travis Hunter with their young quarterback, of course. And do they just think that absolutely is a scenario that's just perfect? Drake May and Travis Hunter. The Giants, I still believe the Giants are in the Shedeur Sanders business, even though you're starting to see a lot more bigger media come around to the realism of where Shedeur Sanders might go in this 2025 NFL draft. If you didn't check out Lance Zierlein's latest mock, you might want to check that out. So if that does not work, which is certainly possible, so that maybe you could get New England to come to 2. The Browns could go to 4. Giants take Shedeur at 3. Browns take Abdul Carter at 4. Obviously, there's a lot of talk for the Cleveland Browns to move up for a quarterback. at a different spot than certainly 2. So hopefully, if in this scenario, if you trade it down to 4, what you picked up in loose change, you can use some of that to offset the trade up from 33 to go get a Jackson Dart, a Jalen Milroe, or maybe even a Shedeur Sanders. But that's not really what we're here for as far as what I'm speaking on here now. You've heard me say many times now, what do the Cleveland Browns still need to get done between now and going to training camp? 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 1, if not 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, and an offensive tackle. That's just the offensive side of the ball. Now, for the drafting of Carter, and look, the Browns this offseason basically have to, I'm not going to say redo the skill rooms, but certainly get the skill rooms, running back doesn't apply here, get the skill rooms closer to the level of the top dog in those rooms. That tight end room certainly and significantly needs an upgrade. And I've talked a million times about what I feel the importance of David Njoku is for this franchise. Sometimes you understand how important a guy is to a team when he's unavailable. And that certainly is the case. When David Njoku cannot play, the Browns offense struggles and struggles mightily. The wide receiver room, what Jerry Jeudy did last year, phenomenal, considering the amount of different quarterbacks he had to play with. Then you look at the rest of that room that is currently constructed. And, I don't know if DeAndre Carter is really here to play wide receiver or maybe be a guy to groom younger guys or strictly just a return man. But you take DeAndre Carter out of the equation, and besides Jerry Jeudy, there is not a wide receiver on the Browns roster who had a season with more than, I believe, 27 receptions. The rest of that room needs to get closer to the alpha male in the room. The running back room, I know for most of you, I am higher on Jerome Ford than most of you are. That room needs to be elevated up closer to what the premise was before Nick Chubb got injured in 2023. You want that room as a whole to be a room that performs to what we saw from Nick Chubb in his prime years up until that terrible Monday night in Pittsburgh, and everything certainly changed for a Cleveland franchise icon. So what drafting Carter does, you draft Abdul Carter, and you look at that Browns defense, and that Browns defense is probably set to go, for the most part, for 2, if not 3 seasons. You have Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett for 5 years. You have Myles Garrett, Abdul Carter, and Isaiah McGuire for at least 2 more years, the 3 of them together. You have Myles Garrett, Abdul Carter, Jawan Briggs, Mike Hall for at least 3 more seasons together. The linebacker room, the whole thing, certainly, it comes down to JOK. And just real quick on Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And I'm not saying, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here a little bit. And, who knows exactly what's going on. What we know is the update is we don't have much more to update, and we'll have updates further down the road, month, yada, yada, yada. But do keep in mind that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah went through a really serious, tragic loss in losing his brother a few years back. So, and in this modern day and age of athletes, and not just being, ball is life mentality anymore, Jeremiah certainly has some decisions to make. And if anybody knows, how fragile, life is and how important, getting to enjoy life is, it's certainly probably somebody like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who went through the circumstances he did in the loss of his brother. And, maybe it's just something to think about, we're dealing with a much more intelligent, much more passionate, much more diverse professional athlete than we were years ago. So still an interesting scenario to play out. But you get to the secondary, Denzel Ward, you figure probably still has 2 more years playing at the level he's playing. You still have, Newsom, Emerson, final years of their deals. You have Cameron Mitchell. You have Miles Harden. We haven't really got to see much of either of them. You have Grant Delpit. This will be the decision year on Ronnie Hickman. You're most likely going to draft a safety as well. Drafting Abdul Carter basically solidifies that defense and the great part of that defense for at least, in my opinion, 3 more seasons, which allows you to get to the work you have to get to on the offensive side of the ball, which we'll continue speaking about. Browns 3D continues. You guys are all fantastic, and we appreciate every one of you. We've been talking about state sharpening mower sales and service now for a couple of months. They're over in Broadview Heights. If you're local to the Cleveland area, they're your one-stop shop for all things lawn equipment. Is there anything worse than missing Browns games because you've got lawn chores to do? State has the best lineup of Cub Cadet mowers to cut your mowing time down, as well as genuine parts and expert factory-trained technicians to get your existing mower back into peak shape. Whether you are in the market for the state-of-the-art Ultima Zero Turn or the top dog Enduro Series tractor, let State Sharpening and Cub Cadet help you keep your weekend yours. Veteran-owned, the Kane family are lifetime Clevelanders. They are lifetime Browns fans and proud supporters of us here at the OBR. Again, if you were local to Cleveland, State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights is your hometown team for all your lawn equipment needs. All their info is at statesharp.com. That is STATESHARP.com. Browns 3D continuing here on the OBR streaming network. Make sure you're following and subscribe to the OBR on YouTube, and of course the OBR over on Twitch. And again, the continued support for the written content from the fantastic team of writers here at the OBR. We could not be more thankful for all the support we've been getting here over the last couple of months. Certainly was going to be a wild offseason, and I don't even know if I'd say we got to wild yet. I'd say the biggest thing the Browns have done to this point is obviously the extension with Myles Garrett. A lot of work still to be done here, and again, time's ticking here for Cleveland. Talking a little bit about, for me, why I think the Abdul Carter pick just makes the most sense. As I mentioned, all of those things, relative to the defense and basically keeping what should be a top shelf unit intact for several seasons while the Browns get to work on this offense. Because look, I'll continue to harp about what's needed at the quarterback position, the running back position, the wide receiver position, the tight end position. But if you are looking, and look, a good general manager, and Andrew Berry talks about this all the time, is, I can't look at the team today. I got to look at the team today, tomorrow, the next day. As we're getting through this 2025 offseason, we kind of already understand what's probably going to be the biggest talking point about the Cleveland Browns offense, at least one of them, for the 2026 offseason. And that is going to be that the Cleveland Browns could very possibly be trying to rebuild an entire offensive line. Granted, you could have a name or two that's already into that equation for 2026. Zach Zinter, certainly third-round pick from last spring. DeJuan Jones, and we'll see how it works. I think the Browns envision an opportunity for DeJuan Jones to be the starting tackle for this team week 1. Does he keep the gig? Does, the veteran recently signed come in, and if he's not working out, Cornelius Lucas? Or, do the Browns spend a decent draft choice on a left tackle that is ready to contribute as a rookie? Or is that draft choice for an offensive tackle maybe spent on a developmental guy? The couple of, I've talked, and I put it out the other night, North Carolina State, Kansas. And of course, the William & Mary kid, all tackles that I kind of like on day 3. Not sure they would be necessarily ready to contribute in 2025. But you're going to most likely be replacing center. You're going to be replacing either left guard or right guard, most likely both. Jack Conklin is a free agent at the end of the 2025 season. So they have to completely overhaul an entire offensive line next year. So this year could be a lot about getting the skill right. And certainly that'll come down to the quarterback position and, how they address the running back position. I tell you guys, week in, week out, I love this running back class. Everybody does. It is deep. It is loaded. It is excellent. And as much as I get geeked up about a guy like Travion Henderson, I'm just not sure the Browns want to give up that capital that it's going to cost to get a Travion Henderson. You got to keep in mind, this is an analytically run front office, which we all know. And value and running back value is just not something that's normally there. The belief for the running back position under an analytic regime is safety in numbers, not go sign a guy like Saquon Barkley for a big deal. Yes, this is the same regime that extended Nick Chubb. Nick was the outlier. He was just such a good player. He was just such a good person. He was such a foundational piece in the community, in the locker room. You don't get a lot of Nick Chubbs. And even though the analytics said don't do it, the Browns were smart enough to buck the analytic trend and re-sign him and extend him. Does Nick come back? Yes. If Nick comes back, does that change my opinion on what I think of the Cleveland Browns running back room? It does not. No, not in any way. I still think you got to go out and get some horses. But ideally, and I'll go back to this, I think ideally the Browns look forward to running backs on day 3. I know a lot of you'd be like, well, day 3? Day 3? You can get 2 nice running backs on day 3 this year. You really, really can. If you want to do it, the way I kind of like it, Martinez from Miami on day 3, Devin Neal from Kansas on day 3. I will absolutely jump on the opportunity of getting LaQuint Allen Jr. out of Syracuse on day 3. Donovan Edwards from Michigan, a guy that's got everything and then some. Never really came together for him at Michigan, but all that potential and the fact that he, can contribute as a receiver, that's a hell of a day 3 guy to have. So there's just so much to be done on the offensive side of the ball. So, it's going to be like the offense is, take. They need such a large part of the pie. And this is even counting that you very well could be drafting a quarterback this year at 33, perhaps even back into the first round to get this quarterback, and fully understand that you may commit another high selection to a quarterback in the 2026 draft. So again, more that the offense is going to take. But one guy goes to the defense. Granted, this year it's the creme de la creme of draft choices you have and the top asset you have. But you give the defense that piece. And I'm not saying I don't have to worry about the defense, but, there could be certainly a path where you extend one of Martin Emerson or Greg Newsome, extend one of them. The safety, you have Dalpit under contract. Is Hickman in this year where he should see a real significant amount of playing time, a guy that would be playing for his future and for his contract, and somebody that you're going to draft. Hopefully it's Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State as well. 6'1", 215, sub 4.5, less than 6 months after an ACL injury. Yeah, I'm all over that. All over that. But you see, just that one player, that one piece given to the defense gives you the opportunity in this draft to work on the skill. Draft 2 running backs. Get a wide receiver in here. Get maybe 2 tight ends in here. Certainly the quarterback position. This gives you that opportunity. And I know, the people who are trying to defend some of the other defensive linemen, that's fine. I mean, I'm with you. But I would have Abdul Carter certainly at a high number. I would have Miles under control. And I have Isaiah McGuire as my third D end, who very well could play on 1st and 10. Still playing on a day 3 contract. That's not bad at all. I got Joe Tryon-Shoyinka for nothing. 1 year, $4 million. I got Alex Wright playing the final year on his day 3 contract. That one, just giving them that one high selection of Abdul Carter gives the Browns so much more maneuverability to now revamp and reload this offense. Because this year it will most likely be about the skill. Again, it's just not really a high offensive tackle class. And then they can then spend the next January, we can spend the next 12 months and change working on most likely overhauling the entire offensive line. That's what the selection of Abdul Carter means to me. And again, look, if you want to say there are 3 players, and again, generational gets thrown around a lot. But if you want to say there are 3 legit, top shelf, blue chip, elite, can't miss guys in this class. One of them the Browns can't get because he's probably already looking at property in Nashville, Tennessee, and Cam Ward. That puts you into the camp of Hunter and into the camp of Abdul Carter. You need so many pieces on the offensive side of the ball. I probably just need that one on the defensive side of the ball in Abdul Carter. Again, it's not a knock on Travis Hunter's game. And for the love of God, Travis Hunter, please run a 40 Friday in Boulder. Please. It ain't even got to be a fast one. Just go in there and give me something in the 4.4s. Because if he's going to go 2 overall, I need something. Because, look, 6 feet, 183 just doesn't necessarily cut it for me to go that high. And I've said this before. To take Travis Hunter that high, you're talking Calvin Johnson went that high. You need him to put up a statistical output like Jamar Chase, like Justin Jefferson. Abdul Carter, double-digit sacks. If he gets 10 sacks a year, it was the correct pick. Nobody thought Miles was going to be even, Miles as great as he is. 10 sacks a year would have been fine. Who knew he was just an absolute total freak of nature and just got better with age. And that's one of the things I also come back to with Abdul Carter. Yes, Travis Hunter could give you 90 and 12, 1,300, whatever per year. I don't see that's not a possibility. But Abdul Carter, in what he did in just one season of playing edge at Penn State, just barely getting started. So there's techniques to learn, his go-to move. There are so many parts of his game that can blossom with Abdul Carter. And you just watch this 1 year of tape at Penn State. And he just looks like he's from another planet. 4.4 speed. Guarantee the vertical's probably 40 inches. You see him chasing down running backs. You see quarterbacks on the roll who had the lead and the angle. and Carter still beat them to the spot. I think he could be about as special could be. And if I have Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett and the other names I mentioned, Mike Hall, of course, and Briggs, 2 more years of Isaiah McGuire, I know I got a shot. I got a shot against Cincinnati every year. I got a shot against Baltimore every year. But I need a lot of work for the offense for 2025 and the offense for 2026. So defense, hey, I don't need to be greedy. I don't need a lot. You know what I'm saying? I don't need a lot on that side of the ball. I don't need a lot on that side of the ball. But you give me that one blue ribbon guy in Abdul Carter. I mean, Jim Schwartz could probably go home. That'd be it for Jim. I got Abdul Carter at 2. All right, you guys do the rest you got to do. The old SpongeBob. I'm going to head out. That's all defense needs, in my opinion. That is literally all they need. I mean, you could spend a day 3 pick on something if you want, whatever. It's fine. You're going to draft a safety, sure. No problem. But as far as draft capital over the next 2 years, you give Jim Schwartz, Abdul Carter this year, I don't think the Browns need much more else for the defense to be competitive. And like I said, next 3 seasons. Because you would have Abdul and Myles for 5. You would have Abdul, Myles, Isaiah for 2 more. You would have Briggs, Hall, Abdul, and Myles for 3 more. And then you can just get working on the offensive side of the ball. Certainly a lot of talk still, and we'll get to this as we close here, about the quarterbacks. The Kirk Cousins thing, and look, what exactly was he doing in Ohio last week? I think we all believe and understand maybe there was a reason why he was in Ohio last week and maybe just what he was doing, even though most of the Browns brass was not even in Cleveland, Ohio. If it were to work, here are a couple things. And I do believe, Kurt wants out. And Kurt wants out. And I don't blame him, and who knows? I still wonder what exactly Atlanta's plan was. Did they, there were 6 QBs. There was a good chance they were going to have an opportunity to draft one. So I don't understand how you gave all that guaranteed money, all of it, to Kirk Cousins, and then just drafted a quarterback right away. And it's certainly not a knock on Michael Penix, and certainly not a knock on them, because it looks like it was the right move. But what in the world did you give all that money to Kirk Cousins for? Kurt doesn't want to be there. I don't think Michael Penix wants him there, to be honest with you. And it's nothing personal. It's just, how does it work for the 2 of them? But there's a couple things. The Browns will not trade, probably, in my opinion, up until the draft. After, most likely, I would say Thursday night into Friday. After the first couple of selections would be the earliest, in my opinion. If the Browns would like to trade down, you can't do that when you already have Kirk Cousins in your pocket. You're not going to fool anybody. You're not having a trade for Kirk Cousins come out this week because they're not going to go out to Boulder, Colorado. And I'm not saying embarrass, but you're going to go out there and let Shedeur Sanders have his day. You're going to do your final conversations on the quarterback position, even though I don't think Shedeur is their guy anymore. You're going to go out there like you think Shedeur is your guy. That's the way you act. Do the Giants get nervous? Do they trade up? Probably don't have to. Does New England trade up for Hunter? The Browns are hoping that Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter put up a pro day together Sunday in Boulder, Colorado. That's talked about forever. Because all of a sudden, they could probably trade out of that pick and still get Abdul Carter at 3 or Abdul Carter at 4. Add some more draft capital. And we know how much Andrew Berry loves that draft capital for the ability to move up, the ability to move back, the ability to move draft capital on to the following draft class. And that gives them that opportunity. So you're not going to go up there with Kirk in tow. I think there's really only one place for Kirk Cousins to be traded to. Where else is Kirk Cousins going right now? Because even if he comes to Cleveland, it's with the thought process of, hey, we're going to see what happens. We're not taking a quarterback at 2. We'll see the way it plays out from there. But where else is Kirk going? Pittsburgh? Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh. Because I don't think Pittsburgh would be operating right now the way they are if they did not know they had Aaron Rodgers done. There would be a lot more urgency and a lot more effort at the quarterback position, certainly from the Pittsburgh Steelers, if that were the case, if they believed there was not something getting done with Aaron. So, and if you're the Browns, right now, you'd be paying Atlanta's price. What am I doing you a favor for? That money is going to come down as far as what I'm going to pay him. The compensation is just going to continue to get lower and lower and lower. And my ideal belief is that the Browns wouldn't mind paying a little more money towards Kirk if it meant the compensation was low. And that compensation better be in 2026, because I'm not giving you a draft pick in 2025 for Kirk Cousins, a guy that you are stuck with. If the Cleveland Browns don't do you a favor and take him off your hands. All right, we got into a ton here today. Bottom line for me, Hunter is totally worthy of it. But if you look at the sense of it, one high selection over the next 2 years on Abdul Carter, and the Browns can just devote their high draft capital in 2025 and 2026 to the offensive side of the ball. Skill guys, 25. Big chubby guys up front, 2026. We appreciate you all for the support here at the OBR. The written content day in, day out. We just got the page views in for the month of March. Staggering number, an impressive number from all the efforts of our writers and certainly from all you guys coming out to read the content every day. This nightly streaming here, the OBR, follow on YouTube, the OBR, follow over on Twitch. You will have the React with Brad and Pete right after me. The closer we get to this draft, the more you're just not going to get Pete Smith to stop talking. So make sure you check out also Garage Beer. Should be on right about 9 o'clock tonight. Bo Bishop from Browns Daily will be on with our guy Mike Keefe. And I appreciate everybody for supporting, Mike and the unfortunate situation, within his inner circle. Glad Mike was able to put something together and, try to help out, some family friends that were in a real dire time of need. This has been Browns 3D on the OBR, brought to you by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. Again, appreciate you all. Thank you all. This has been your daily delivery of all things dog pound. Browns 3D. And we'll talk to you all tomorrow.